The queer body is currency. Your body is not just yours, especially as a queer person, but also in a sexualized society like we are right now. Our bodies act as currencies. Our bodies that hold also our facial features, all of our body features, external and internal, they define how we live our lives and how other people judge us, whether we want it or not, and whether we want to judge other people by it or not. I think it always comes from a bit of the context. My context comes back from ballet school and from ballet itself. So I think that's the first time when I realized that my body was currency, because my body meant that I was able to get an education in ballet, because ballet requires you to have a certain form of body or to have a certain look, which also, permits you to pursue a career in the end, which is absolutely crazy if you think about it. But at the same time, there is a side of injury prevention, and if you have a stronger body, a body that is already turned out, a body that is already kind of a bit more flexible, it will make your life easier in the long run in the ballet world. I'm just talking about ballet now, not contemporary dance. I'm thinking, yeah, that's the first time I've experienced my body being currency. And then very quickly after, or very quickly during that process as well, while I was out and about. I outed myself when I was 15, and I had my first gay experiences already with a very, very early age on. And I knew I think I knew that I was gay about like 13 years old. And so you have a different connection to your body, and your body becomes something that is something that takes the blame also. Sometimes you feel shameful, because in those days, in the 90s, like, people were still telling you should be ashamed for being queer, which I hope people don't say anymore, because you shouldn't be ashamed. You should be proud of who you are, and you should love yourself. Well, bodies act as social passports for us. So they open doors. If you look good by the standards of today's society, you probably are going to perform better in an interview situation. You are probably being more chosen, more looked at, more valued, which is dumb, absolutely, but it's the status quo of our society. We have taken this self-optimization to a level where we find like only people who self-optimize also their bodies to a certain extreme are worth it, which I call total bull on, but it functions this way, and it functions this way. The whole gay system functions around that. It's absolutely mind-blowing. And I find like the desire is a form of validation. So I've seeked that as well. I've had those. I've worked out a lot. I had a really nice body, like a really good body. I had a six-pack and all. But what was my motive behind that? I drove myself to below 10% fat and everything. I've done all of that. I've done the crazy workouts. I've done the not eating bit, or restricting my calorie intake and things like this to be in a caloric deficit. I am a fitness trainer. I'm a licensed fitness trainer. So I would never actually allow a customer to do that, what I've done to myself. Just like disclaimer. But I did this out of this because I wanted that validation. I wanted this love. I wanted this like external validation by the people to tell me I look good, you are worth to be loved. And I think we've set the standard really high for this in queer communities, that if you look a certain way, you are worthy of love. But also that is not true. You're always worthy of love. Everybody is worthy of love, you know. It's also a safety net, you know. You walk into a room and you're convinced, you're hot, you look good in your own standards. You are going to be performing better. You are going to be more safe. You are going to be more at ease, because your body and your appearance acts as a safety net. And at the meantime, I'm asking myself, like, doesn't that also exist in the animal kingdom? With all, especially the males being like bright and beautiful and doing their dances and being fabulous and everything. Isn't that a form of this, and we've just taken it to the extreme as humans? I don't know. It's a question for you guys. Maybe you would like to think on that, but I'm just really like thinking, is that maybe a thing that could be interesting to look at? Does it actually predate humanity, that with our external selves we are buying our places in society, basically? Gay male culture and visibility, and I kind of touched up on this, and this is very true. I mean, cis gay men have this obsession until now of being muscly, having beautiful hair, maybe even a nice hairy chest, then being shredded, you know, being big but shredded, and being very masculine, you know, this kind of like almost archetype of person, of, if you look at David by Da Vinci, for example, you know, these things. Yes, we have taken this and we aspire to look like this, but what for? And I think very quickly we categorize bodies in the community, where because we put a lot of labels in the community, you know, there's the bear community, there is the otters, there's the tops, the bottoms. We love to categorize people, especially in my generation. I have no idea how it works for like younger generations, if they still love all these categories. But I think that we have created so many subcultures, which is amazing, because people are not ashamed to live inside their subculture. But at the same time, this subculture can limit or very quickly categorize someone instead of them just being them, because it's just the external factors in the end. And there's almost like a silent hierarchy between all of this, where like the cis male tops are at the very top. They're like dominators, and then the little Twinkie bottoms are at the very bottom. I don't know. Maybe it just seems to me like this, but I do feel that there is a certain hierarchy in there that we have allowed to happen, and that is very persistent in gay culture. And I think that we rate all the people, and I think we rate community members into this system, in this system of desire. And that's when we kind of like, no, that's when you experience the extreme on the gay dating apps, where you just have like lots of like torsos without a face and things like this. And there's so much more to us than this. And I think what we need to rethink as society is, what kind of signals are we sending to people growing up, and how are we looking at ourselves? What are we comparing ourselves to? Because why am I policing my body? You know, where does it come from? And that's what I said in the very beginning. And my earlier choices came from a point of desire. Now I still work out, and I have picked up working out with weights again because I truly enjoy it. But I don't do it to be desired. I still do it, and I'm not going to lie, I'm still do it because I want to look good. Absolutely. I'm not going to lie about that because I think we all have this sort of perspective. But at the same time, I also know that it's very beneficial for my health. And I have felt that working out and sport has always been a big part of my life, and that this actually supports my mental health if done right. If not overdone, it helps with my sleep. It helps even with my sex drive. It helps with so many things that it is beneficial to me and my mental and my physical health if I don't go down a vortex where I self-shame on myself and discipline myself, because and discipline is a big word because sometimes, most of the time, it's used in a very positive way, but I find that discipline has always this negative connotation of you are forbidding yourself in doing something. You are disciplined, and this is what I also learned in ballet school. You are disciplined when you almost end up being the martyr, when you almost sacrifice everything. But what is the sacrifice for, am I asking? And isn't all this discipline actually discipline dressed up as shame, and that we are shaming ourselves, and we get this shame from the external as well, especially in ballet schools or even like in gyms. And I think sometimes we just mistake control for self-care, because true self-care means that I, from the beginning of it all, of the process, I accept myself. I don't want to change myself. I want to do something for myself. And that's where my mindset about working out actually changed. Yes, I do want to change my body, but I don't want to solely change my body. I want to provide some self-care, but not self-optimization. And I think with today's society and the obsession of self-optimization and a queer body in a capitalist system, there's always a form of productivity, control, self-optimization or optimization, process optimization. And I think that this plays a big role in the development of our body images and the queer body as currency. And to put all of this into the context of rurality, where I am right now, so if you're a first-time listener or watcher of the podcast, I live in a very rural area of France, and I do have a partner that I met here. I was very lucky to meet him here. And there is such a small pool of gay men here, and you are just so much more visible. And already I feel that in a rural context, a lot of this body becomes totally different. It turns into something that is useful, but not as useful as currency as you would think in a big cities, in a club or something. Your body is your tool to survive from day to day. Your body is not so much a tool to attract others or to create a hierarchy above others. That's my very personal experience in a rural setting, that in the rurality, what you find more is that people's bodies, and I'm not only talking queer people, but queer people in general, their bodies are their tools for their everyday work, because most people work with their bodies in a rural context, which changes the whole perspective on a body, which I think helped me to kind of release the status quo and release this idea of I need to look a certain way to be accepted, which I did feel a lot in bigger cities. And I think that there is more acceptance of people in general if you're open-minded, if you take the step towards people. So as you see, all of this is very personal for me, and this all stems from within. And I have decided to make this whole season about the topic of the body. We will talk about lots of different body experiences. We will talk about the queer body and the queer body itself in a context of reality, but also in a context of the bigger picture. And I would like to openly also discuss with you guys about certain eating disorders, certain things that happen to me. I want to open up about it because I am very open about this, that I've experienced these things. So this year and this season of the podcast is going to concentrate very much on this. I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to have guests. I am considering 1 or 2 people right now to come on to the show. But for now, you'll just have to deal with me. I hope that's okay. If you have listened until now, thank you so much. And I just want to talk quickly about the evolvement of the podcast. So I was supposed to bring back the podcast last year in September due to lots of things going on and another YouTube channel that I maintain, me being an artist and me renovating my own house and lots of different compartments that built up my life. I didn't really have the mindset to go back in and record more of the podcast. And in the last few months, I've been thinking of how I could bring back the podcast so that it would be sustainable for myself and sustainable for you as well. So I have decided to have the podcast come out monthly instead of weekly, and then bi-weekly was also an idea. But I think once a month is going to be absolutely sustainable for myself, and we will have 12 episodes this year, starting from January, like we are now, until December. We'll do the full year together. All the podcast is basically revolved around the question, what does it cost a queer person to have a body in the world, and who gets to decide what that body is for? It all sums up like a big arc of episodes where we talk about discipline, where we talk about sport and eating disorders, where we talk about masculinity and who gets to take up space. We talk about alcohol, belonging, ritual, and acquired dependence. We will talk about fitting in as a performance, because I find this is also very interesting. How do we queer people perform to fit in a heteronormative society? We're going to talk about how there is no neutral public space, basically, because it always is shaped by the society we live in. We're going to talk about gender, about softness, about the myth of the cis men. And then we're going to talk about how cis gay men lead on gentrification. And this is going to be very interesting because I learned quite a lot on a course about sexuality of the University of British Columbia on an example of Vancouver. And we're going to talk about what history doesn't show us. Queer bodies that were erased, regulated, or reclaimed. And then we're going to speak about desire, age, and the fear of disappearing. And then we're going to sum it all up and have my very personal conclusion on all of this. I hope you're in for the ride. If you are, then please subscribe or follow the podcast. And I will see you for a new episode in February where we talk about when discipline becomes devotion. Until then, bisous from the French countryside.